Charter Committee will come to order now. Today is August 6th, and it is 5:20, and I detect a quorum. So we will start out with RS 2018-13-14. Provides amendments to the charter of the Metro government in accordance with Article 19, Section 19 thereof, and setting forth a brief description of each amendment to be placed upon the ballot. And I will turn it over to you, Dave.
Thank you. Oh, good. If it's all right, can we start with some of the... I know that Councilman Elrod's on the way. Councilman Mendez is just walking in, so if we could, it's all right. Let me start with some of the more straightforward ones. Sorry, I'm just pulling it up. I guess we could start from the end. Yes.
Amendment F would be good. That's probably straightforward.
Yeah. So the last item on there, Amendment F, it's simply changing all the he's and she's, hers and all the he's and the hers and the she's and policeman to more inclusive terms. There's an amendment that we need to put on there. The original version would, since the entire version has to also be available on the ballot, along with the summary, it would have been 51 pages.
Excuse me just a minute. Mike Jamison said that you were needed in there for a meeting before you do this meeting.
Who?
Jamison.
And I am?
Yeah, can you...
Okay, we're going to stop this and re-adjourn later.
So come with me. Let's go talk to Mike.
All right, the Charter Commission has re-adjourned at 5:24, and we're back to Rosenberg to discuss a few of the amendments.
Okay, well maybe we should just go from the beginning. So Amendment A. So currently, in the event that both the mayor and the vice mayor are unable or unwilling to serve, there is nobody that slides into the position of mayor. So until the mayor and vice mayor elope to Colorado together, and we've got nobody to sign bills, to run departments, anything like that. So until, for 75 to 80 days, and then until the election is certified, which is no way for a city to operate. Under this amendment, only if that happens, if both the mayor's seat and vice mayor's seat become vacant, the council would elect somebody to sit in that seat for however long it takes to get a new election certified. That person would not be eligible to subsequently run in that next election. The idea behind that is that a council of 40 members should not have the power to give somebody that kind of a leg up in an election and let them play incumbent right up until we're electing a person to lead our city. So under this, it lays out the fact that we would hold that election, that it's done by majority vote, the same way that we do like the HEF board and the IDB, where we make sure that it's somebody that the majority of the council is okay with, and that person would hold that office and then be ineligible to file a nominating petition to run for the seat.
And it doesn't say it expressly, but so this means in that situation the council could pick anybody. It's not
anybody who's anybody who's eligible to hold the position of mayor under normal circumstances would be able to under these circumstances. I think the hope would be that it would be some sort of an elder with knowledge and not a lot of political ambition.
I think it's a good one. Move to adopt.
Wait a minute. I'm not so sure that it is a good one. Just depending on the equitable balance of the council. For instance, we have more men than we have women. So the men could outvote the women just because they are the ones in the seat. So I'm just wondering how that could work, because they may not even give any consideration to a woman just because of testosterone.
I agree. I would submit that both our current pro tem, deputy pro tem, and previous pro tem were all women, even though we have 25 men and 15 women on the council.
Right, but are you saying that this person will then move into the seat of pro tem? Or in what seat are you saying that they're going to move into?
So if the mayor resigns, the vice
Right.
mayor resigns, we got nobody, we would be appointing somebody to serve as mayor
Exactly.
for the next 60 days or whatever, and then they would not be able to continue after that point.
Right, so the position of mayor is a much higher level than pro tem. So, and that basically gives credence to my point of, because it appears that maybe the pro tem seat is one that is held by a woman and not a man.
Okay. Go ahead.
I was just going to, I definitely appreciate the concern. My thought is, like right now under the charter, in this situation, it's chaos. There is, the seat is literally vacant. And so for me, the question is, if we don't have a mayor, we don't have a vice mayor, and the charter doesn't allow for the position to be filled at all, and it has to go empty for 3 months, then the council are the only adults left in the room, and we either continue on with the current situation where it's chaos and the positions are literally unfilled and nobody is mayor, or we make it so the council picks somebody.
Right, and I understand that, but I'm just wondering if there could be some provisions made, whereas it is where there's equitable. I mean, in the council seat. So just say, for instance, we have a committee, and we pull from a hat who's going to serve on the committee, and the committee is of 13 individuals. So whomever and however they choose, and they will be chosen randomly and not just decided upon because we all are council members, because that way it is, everybody has, your name is pulled or it's not. You have a 50% chance that you will and 50% chance that you won't. And But if it's elected or selected, then that means it's subjective. So I want to seek some kind of objective manner in which that person can be chosen to fill the position. Not saying that I don't want someone there, because I too agree that it's chaotic, but I would like to see a more equitable way to choose.
I think that the county votes members into the council. So next term, it may be all women. So I think that is already
But is that
done.
likely?
I mean, who
No,
knows?
it's not.
Keep electing more women every year.
Every single year.
But
I mean,
it's-
I think if you go,
There's a reason for that.
But we're not talking about hypothetics. What hypothetically it could be. We're talking about what it is right now. And all I'm asking for is, let's consider something that would be more objective and less subjective. And I think the current state of the council presents a subjective position.
Yeah, I think that, if we're picking names randomly, then the odds are you're going to have the same proportion on the committee that you have in the council, and it could be even more male or white dominated than the council is.
It could be.
Chances are it will be exactly the same proportion of each. I mean, just by, definite, if 5 out of 8 names in the hat are male names, then you're more likely to pull a male name out of the hat.
Chances are not that we thought we'd be where we are making this determination, but it presented itself. So I would rather choose that as opposed to, and let it be randomly chosen and selective, and I get it and I understand. But to me, that just seems to be a fairer process. To me.
If I may, we've got 40 members on the council. We're all selected by the county at large. I think we're all smart enough to make a determination on who we want to select to serve for 2 months.
Well, what about the at-large council people? Why wouldn't let them do it? Let them make the determination. It's 5 of them as opposed to the entire 40 council members.
Yeah, Kevin.
Definitely be all male too.
But it's not right now.
No, but you get a wider variety when you use the whole council than if you go narrowing it down to
No,
random
not necessarily,
chance.
because right now, with the 5 at large, you have 2 African Americans and you have 2 women. And you got 3.
May not be like that next
It
time.
may not be, but it is right now. So what I'm saying is that when we put that in place,
We got to look in the future. Yeah, we got to look in the future. You never know what is going to happen in the future.
true. And in the future, it could be all women.
Bob, you had the motion, right?
I did have the motion.
It was seconded, correct?
I don't know.
Second.
So
Yeah, so
40% of at-larges are women, and it's 16 out of 40, so that's 40% of the council is women.
Call for the question.
For what it's worth.
okay. Well, ready to take a vote?
I call for the
You
question.
got to call for the question.
All in favor?
Of previous question,
Yep.
Yes.
Aye.
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 No.
Ayes have it. We'll vote on this amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
opposed.
Yeah, I'm good for the
Opposed?
amendment. The amendment is to have someone fill the position correctly.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. All right, we're going to move on to Amendment B.
Okay, Amendment B is the special election amendment, and it also comes with an amendment that I'll explain. So currently, in the event of a vacancy in the position of mayor, vice mayor, or district council member, let me just start with mayor. In the position of mayor, if the vacancy occurs more than 12 months before the end of the term, we have a special election. This doesn't change that at all. Under current law, if there's a vacancy in the position of district council member 12 months before the election, it stays vacant. This would change that to 6 months, so that no district is without representation for longer than a 6-month period. It also states that in the event of a vacancy for vice mayor with 24 months left in the term, that there's a special election. The reason that's a longer one than mayor is it's expensive to have countywide elections. And then it remains that an at-large member, there's no special election. The amendment that I'm not taking a position on, but I'm leaving open for discussion, is whether to change that 6-month period for a district council member to 8 months. Some on the revision commission, or at least 1 or 2, thought that if you do 6 months, and then it's another 80 days before you have the election, which means that that person would be serving for basically 3.5 months before the other election. And so they recommended another period Some said 7 months, some said 8 months, some said 9 months, so I split the difference, setting it at 8 months, so that person would get a full 5 or so months before the election. Under that scenario, if there's a vacancy 7 months before the election, that council district does not have anybody from their district to represent them on local matters and nobody to vote on their behalf on countywide matters. I think that sums it up.
Any discussion?
I'm sorry, let me also just add, it cleans up a lot of the ambiguous language that exists in the current section that has created so much fun over the last 6 months.
So the amendment from 6 to 8, the idea was if there was an election 6 months out, a vacancy at 6 months and a day, then you have an election at
75 to 80 days later.
Okay.
And then by the time that person gets certified, they're serving 3 months, and whether that's too short of a time to do any good or not. I would submit any representation is better than no representation, but I'll leave that open.
A question, I apologize if this was I was trying to read and hear at the same time. I don't do good at it either. With a mayor, a vice mayor comes up to mayor, who would then be, this may be in the other part of the resolution, would like we have now, the pro tem would step up to vice mayor, and then if something were to happen to that person serving out the term of the mayor, then the vice mayor would automatically go up?
No, under this amendment, it doesn't affect succession at all. It would still be the case that the pro tem becomes the acting vice mayor and is not part of the line of succession to mayor.
So I think we had talked about it before. So like, when there's a vacancy in the office of vice mayor for less than 24 months, then the council would elect, I guess, the pro tem or acting vice mayor. Is that right?
The acting vice mayor.
Okay.
The pro tem.
the pro tem,
Yeah.
not vice mayor,
Right.
not the charter provision of vice mayor. We never set it up so the council would pick the charter position of vice mayor.
Right. That would remain the case. We don't get to put anybody into the line of succession unless both those seats are vacant and somebody's got to do it.
So if there, say, a bus hits the mayor, and so the vice mayor steps up, and then a second bus hits that second mayor, then the council would fill.
No.
It's just not.
It's an election. Then we trigger the Amendment A where we pick somebody to fill for a couple months until the county can have an election for mayor.
Okay.
You sort of
how
give away
many-
your life perspectives here. He's got the mayor and vice mayor eloping, and you got them hit by buses.
They're hit by buses while they're eloping. All right. Yeah.
It's a tragic story.
Horrible, tragic.
Nashville.
So how many months is this?
Hey, it can happen now,
Are we
apparently.
talking
You never
about?
know.
Just like 2.
For what?
Did we appoint somebody?
Under the previous amendment?
No, on this
Yes.
one.
This is just setting when
When you're
special
talking
election
about
is
having
triggered.
the election, because you also mentioned a district position, and I'm just looking at District 1, because I know that there is election fatigue in that district. So it's
Okay.
hard enough to have people come out and vote.
Right.
But being that they have voted about 6 times in the last 6 months is crazy.
A lot of these amendments were conceived as a result of what the people of District 1 have gone through over the last several months.
Right.
This particular amendment, I think the most substantial thing about it is that it just says that if a vacancy happens in the last 12 months of the term, if it happens between 6 and 12 months before the end of the term, so between now and March, February, then that district will get to have somebody represent them until the end of the term. It doesn't affect the timing of the special election. It doesn't affect anything during the first 3 years of the term. So this particular amendment would not affect District 1 one way or the other. There's another amendment later
Okay, so
on that
just say,
would.
for instance, something happens to the council person in District 1 in March. What happens?
Currently, there would be it would sit vacant until the end of the term. Under this, it would sit vacant until the end of the term because it's inside of 6 months. If the council person from a district were to get hit by a bus, and I like that we're focusing on transit here, a bus in January, then currently, under the current charter provision, that seat would sit vacant. They'd have no representation for 8 months. If we pass this, they would get to elect somebody to serve for the last 8 months.
So does someone and a council at large member still be assigned?
Yes. Yeah, that doesn't change.
Right. Well, I think that it probably, instead of having another election, if it's within the 12 months time, I don't think they need to have another election.
So if, thinking about,
There's the real life example that you could talk about too, like Karen Johnson is gonna.
Yeah, for example, Karen's going to be vacating her seat in District 29. Folks in District 29 will not have anybody to represent them on zoning matters who lives anywhere near the district, who understands the district, to vote on their behalf on countywide issues because at-large members are still responsible for representing the entire county. Mm-hmm. This would allow them to have a democratically elected representative for that period of time, which I think is a value. I understand what you're saying about election fatigue, and what the folks have had to deal with in District 1 is awful.
True, and it's also, if that person doesn't have any experience with zoning and planning, it's going to be difficult for them because they have to get acclimated to what it is that they're doing and how they're doing and what they should do.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that actually having an election is really going to fix the problem that we have. So, I think somebody had talked about possibly making sure that council people, when they become a council person, that they not run for other positions. Maybe that needs to be revisited in some way because this is really, this year has been a very discombobulated year.
And I think the instant runoff will help with some of that election fatigue, where you're not having to go back, twice,
Right.
Like they did in District 1 this last time.
Right.
So I just want to offer one thing. When you speak to the fact that there are other council members or any council member that might seek another position to vacate as a reason that this may happen, think about the fact that there are also other reasons over which somebody has no control that might lead to a vacancy in a particular position. So I'm just saying it's not just because somebody that's in the council might aspire to a different office. It's that life happens. And so we have to be mindful that we may not want to go down the road of saying that it's in this one single lane.
True, and I get that, but in this situation, we've had 3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I am painful.
as it continues, once it's acceptable, because it can be, we might find that it will be, as we continue to progress.
Yeah, I think it was
Before, I think it was not, but now it has become commonplace.
It was.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
nobody-
it was.
I felt so.
But I wouldn't do it just because of this. I
Yeah,
would do it
motion?
because of just the whole sense of it.
You want to talk some more?
Just one. I mean,
Yeah, Johnny, get ready.
because I'm a loser, I was skimming the historical roster for council members going back to the beginning of Metro, and since the beginning of Metro, people have used it as a jumping off point to become a judge. So that's been going on
Right.
since the 70s. And juvenile court clerk, somebody became a middle office. I mean, I think the reality is with the horrible pay and really long hours, it's inevitable that people are going to, have other options, and they got to be able to explore them. But
So-
I would make.
So how about, there's this organization called SCORE of retired business people. We have retired and former council people. Could it be a possibility when we have situations like this that instead of putting those who are currently elected to be council members, that we step and get some of those former council members and have them act in that role because they have the experience, they've been there? Is that a possibility for us to think of something in that way? I know we may not be able to do it now as it relates to this, but I think that
You want to talk about a subjective group, just picking somebody out of a hat of people that have served as council members that aren't duly elected. I think that could be pretty
We would be
dangerous.
picking the council
Well,
members.
the thing of it is that prior to the terms, we had people that served for 22 years. And they know zoning, they know these things very, very well. And, to the point that people who are going to be elected and fresh in those positions, this would put an experienced, seasoned person that could carry the community and make sure that things were done properly.
Think about our council district. Which of the last three who would decide which of the last three very different council members would get a gig?
Charlie Tiger.
Move to approve amendment number B.
But the thing of it is that it could be done.
They can run again if they get elected, right? I mean, so,
Yeah, this doesn't change term
So-
limits in any way.
if they run and win for, for the half a month.
I'm just putting something out there for food for thought.
Yeah.
But
Because
they
I
will
think
probably run again.
I think what we have to do is find some solutions to the problems that we have. And I think that if we had given more thought to the things that, or if previous councils had given more thought to the decisions that they were made and to the laws and policies that we have, if they thought that we would be in this situation that we're in now, we wouldn't be here. So I'm just saying that we've got to start thinking outside of the box and do some things that's going to help those that come after us, because frankly, I am not happy with the way things are right now and all of the decisions that we have to make quickly without having enough time to determine what would really be the best for this council. And I think that having some seasoned people to help us, not all of us are attorneys.
Right. I agree. Let's figure out a way to do that.
Chair, I think we got a motion and a second on the table.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Motion passes. Move on to Amendment C.
So Amendment C. Amendment C also comes with an amendment. It's just a housekeeping amendment.
If you would, Councilman Rosenberg, would you let us know kind of what the Charter Commission said about this stuff, just
Yes.
to help us and everybody watching?
The first one was 5-0. I don't remember the vote. The first one was in favor with the suggested change of 6 months to 8 months. Second one was in favor, and then this one was in opposition. This comes with a housekeeping amendment. This is instant runoff voting. in extremely limited circumstances. So right now, in the absolutely hypothetical situation of a special election for district council member or vice mayor, if somebody failed to get 50%, you would very hypothetically have a runoff later on to fill that seat. That causes election fatigue in the case of folks in District 1 who have had to do that a couple times now, and also comes with a $750,000 price tag in the case of vice mayoral runoff, along with sending folks to the polls again, having the decision be driven by a much smaller pool than you would have in the original election, and other things around the margins, which I can get into a little bit more. So under this provision, only in special elections, only for vice mayor and district council member, we would use instant runoff voting or ranked choice voting. Under that system, when a voter goes in, they can just vote for their first choice like they do now, or they can mark numbers second, third, next to other people to indicate their next highest choices. Under the hypothetical vice mayoral election, anybody who voted for the eliminated candidate, or any folks would have gone in and ranked their candidates if they so chose, 1, 2, 3. Anybody who voted for the first name on the ballot that was then eliminated would see their second choices then get their vote, which would give somebody a majority, somebody who was elected and liked enough to be ranked by a majority of the people in the county, and our election is done. Nobody has to go campaign anymore. Nobody has to go vote again, and we have a lot more money in our pockets to do things. Some of the other advantages that have been found about instant runoff voting is that it makes campaigns a lot more substantive. Right now, you see a lot of negative campaigning. That comes with a very real consequence under instant runoff voting of turning off the supporters of other candidates and leading them to rank you last. So you end up with much more substantive elections. It's used nationwide, and also a lot of European countries use it exclusively. It's been passed in Memphis. It's used for military and overseas ballots throughout the South. Maine uses it for all of its elections. San Francisco uses it, Santa Fe, Minneapolis, lots of other locations that have used it and seen great success with it. And so this would introduce it in a very limited manner so that it would be possibly never used, maybe sometimes used once or twice every 4 years, but it's being introduced in that limited way, not in a haphazard way, but with the real benefit of saving money, preventing the election fatigue, and doing it in a less impactful way than if we included mayoral elections and all that sort of thing.
Just for informational purpose, was the language that's in here, because we don't have anything like this in Metro, was the language patterned off anywhere like Memphis is?
This is Maine's language. Council Lady Allen hopefully offered some modifications to it to improve it. But it's by and large Maine's language that they used for their statewide primaries this year.
Is there any conflict with state law with this? Are we allowed to do it?
Depends on who you ask.
Okay.
Mark Owens doesn't like it. Metro Legal has based, they can speak for themselves, but has expressed their concern based on it. Mr. Jamison doesn't entirely agree with those other analyses. I would note that there was enough that at the state they actually had a bill this year to make instant runoff voting illegal, and they killed it in committee.
But there's a clause in there where if this were to be found, invalid, we revert back.
Exactly. So yeah, I think it's kind of invalid whether it is or not, because it says plainly that if it's repugnant to state law, we stick with our runoff system. So in the future, if it is found to be illegal, and later in the future it's found to be legal, we would then have it in place.
Has Jamie Holland said whether he's going to sue about this or not?
Not at liberty to discuss it.
Let's play this out, though, all seriously. Now,
Okay.
we go to where we are. Let's say we had a vice mayor election and something happened like this.
Okay.
We wouldn't know this is illegal. We have the state telling us they don't like it and they think it's illegal. And so we can assume that the Attorney General for the state of Tennessee is being asked to sue us because
I don't know if it'd be the AG. It'd just be, I think, a local attorney would have to go to court and file something.
someone with standing would have to do it, but you wouldn't have standing until we decided to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think what my problem is that if we did this and we don't have a vice mayor or someone sitting there, and then we get a guaranteed lawsuit because they know that the state doesn't think it's right, Metro Legal doesn't think it. The only one we got right now is Mr. Jameson, and I appreciate Mr. Jameson. But if we kind of know we're going to get a lawsuit over this, I think it would put us even further down the line of trying to get someone put in this seat. I mean, it might, instead of having just immediate, and instead of having one in 5 weeks, you might be 2-3 months down the road trying to get a vice mayor. I mean, I would prefer that the state and Metro Legal say, yes, we think this is a legal option. That's just my take. I just don't want us having the state and Metro Legal saying this is not legal and us going forward when it just doesn't seem appropriate.
We would have the choice to do this, right? It wouldn't have to be done. So
It
if
would
we've
be
got
done
a
in a
lawsuit.
special election.
Yeah, so if we've got a lawsuit pending, we could just vote the other way.
Yeah. I would
The
say
lawsuit
there-
wouldn't come up until this was actually triggered.
Until there was a vice mayoral election that came up where this would be triggered.
But would
or
it be
district.
in motion, or would it have been completed?
I mean, I would rather we have someone, a representative from the state, file a bill at the state and say, this is legal, before we just jump into the pool and say, we hope it's legal.
I think there are two things. First of all, if that were to happen, then they could just take the first names on the ballot, because those are the people that were cast, the votes were cast for. I don't think it would delay anything.
But I'm saying there would be a lawsuit filed. There would have to be a lawsuit filed, and then it would just get murky again. We would go back to the Jamie Holland example from earlier this year.
But that got sorted out, though. I mean, it was murky until the Supreme Court ruled.
It did. I mean, it got ruled and everything happened on the time frame it was supposed to.
But I guess my
The
question
other
is,
thing
why are we not seeking approval from Metro Legal and the State Election Commission before we do this?
I don't think the State Election Commission can rule on it.
No, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, I mean, they're giving an opinion. I'm assuming he had an opinion.
It was not in consultation with the AG. I can say that. And I would also think that if this were to become a thing, it would trigger some sort of.
I think it's a good,
level.
just for the record, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm arguing. I just don't want us to jump into something.
That's interesting to me too, because this one I was just dead set on. I was ready to move. Because, I'm thinking that this supposed to be of the people, for the people, and by the people. And it sounded like it was for the people to me. And I was ready to move on it. So it's interesting to me that we get caught up in all of the legalities of things as opposed to doing what's best for the people.
Yeah.
Bob, what do you think?
I would like to hear from Mr. Cooper and somebody's description, one of the lawyers' description of what the Charter Commission had to say about it.
I was not at the Charter Revision Commission meeting. I was in the soccer meeting. I have not researched this specific issue. The attorney for the Election Commission and the Charter Revision Commission, same attorney, Nikki Ecke, she's a Ivy League educated, fantastic researcher, so she kind of handles that thing. She initially, I was thinking, I worked on this issue in 2004, trying to get the charter amended to do this with a council member at the time. So I really never thought of it being repugnant to state law. The Election Commission gave us a copy of this letter from Mark Goines. So Nikki started looking at it and said, yeah, I see where he's coming from. The state law doesn't specifically say you cannot have ranked choice voting. It says you can't mark more than one person on a ballot. So it's not directly on point, but you can interpret the existing state law. And Nikki said, yeah, I think a court would that's how a court would read it, like the state is. Again, from a conceptual standpoint, we see no issue, and there is a savings clause built in to it in the event that it is invalid. I don't know if the Election Commission, if they receive guidance from the state that it violates state law. I don't know that the Election Commission would put it on the ballot. in that manner. I'm not sure how they, they're kind of an independent body, so I don't know what they would do. They may say, well, we don't think it's consistent with state law, so we're going to treat it the way the charter has always treated it. But that was Nikki's position, and Mike's probably researched it too. So
Before I ask Mike, let me ask a follow-up there. I think you kind of answered the question. I was wondering about the hypothetical that they were playing through about, so we pass it, then we're confronted with one of these elections. When does a lawsuit blossom? And I was kind of hearing you say, well, it might not ever because, well, the election commission might choose.
right, and then it would be up to a candidate or someone else with standing who wanted ranked choice voting to file the lawsuit.
I mean, that's the only reason the last piece of litigation got done in time was because there was 5-6 months before the planned August election, but
With 5 weeks, that would be
it'd be hard to get
hard
resolved.
to get resolved.
So, Mike, what happened at the
The
Charter
Charter
Commission?
Revision Commission, they did vote, they had a motion to disapprove, which passed 5-0, so essentially a unanimous disapproval. There was discussion of Mr. Gowen's letter, and at this point, that's the substance of the most recent authority, a letter from him. It's not an appellate decision, so to speak, but it's been, it seems well-written. He relies primarily on 2 statutes, and I disagree with his interpretation of one, but not the other. The one statute that essentially says you can count your ballots once. There's no recounting of ballots on the first. And his impression is that this is essentially a built-in recounting of ballots, and I think that's the opposite of what it is. It is an instant runoff. There is no need to recount, and that's the purpose of the mechanism. But the statute that John mentioned about you can cast the number of votes according to the number of offices available, that's hard to get around. I did hear today from Janet Kleinfelter, who does legal work for Mark Owens, and their argument with respect to the recounting is it is recounting at a practical level because their understanding is that the machines, as of today in Tennessee and Davidson County, are incapable of applying the automatic adjustment, eliminating the last round, et cetera. So they would have no choice but to recount if they were implementing instant runoff voting. So that's the difficulty.
And I would also note that the Memphis provision has been, I guess, challenged is the right word, but that was heard by an administrative law judge within the past couple weeks regarding the Memphis provision, and we do not have a ruling from the administrative law judge yet. And I was told that Memphis had on their ballot in November a provision to repeal the ranked choice voting. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yes. The incumbents don't like it there.
So one other question for the lawyer people. When do we need to vote on this to get it on the November
I
ballot?
think it needs to be tomorrow. Is there a deferral?
Yeah, we filed with a one built-in
Built-in,
deferral
okay.
possibility. So it's got to be, you have to file it 80 days before the election, but then you have to send it, the clerk would have to send the as-adopted version to the Election Commission 75 days before. So you could defer once, but that's it.
All right, I'm not necessarily saying we should. I mean, I don't know whether there's any greater clarity on these legal issues in the next 14 days. So.
I have a question for both of you. If we were to pass this and it were to go into the charter, and say there was a judge that were to say that it's repugnant to state law, but then the legislature subsequently passed a statute saying that these are allowed, would this then kick in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we really have nothing to lose.
That's my position.
And hopefully we can get the state to,
So at minimum, we would be going on record saying we want this in Nashville. Please allow us to do it. And we've got a very good relationship with the legislature.
I
assumed
We
there'd
have
be
a
a
new
bill
one, though,
no session saying we couldn't do it. But
One other, and this,
Guaranteed.
the machines right now, can the machines that we have do it? And then two, would there be a complication with, for instance, on this last ballot, we had all the offices where you're just voting for someone, but then at the very end, you had a vice mayoral election where it would be an instant runoff. Would the machines be able to handle all of that?
Yes, per the machine operators at the Election Commission.
I think at some point we asked to have the Election Commission actually tell us that. Have we done that?
Mr. Delanis seemed to be indicating not that at Friday's commission meeting.
I got the opposite impression.
That they could do it?
Yeah.
I got the impression he was saying it was in principle a good idea, but he didn't know that their machines could do
What I
it.
got is him saying that they could do it, but that there are other counties across the city where they would need to bring in machine operators to do it because they don't have the staff that Davidson County has. Also, the Election Commission is going to be updating their software. We'll all have new machines before the 2020 presidential election, and each of the different systems they're considering can handle instant runoff voting with no problem.
I mean, my view is I want to vote for this, but this piece that the Election Commission can actually do it, somebody's got to, they need the Election Commission to say that. No offense.
Can I get somebody on the phone here?
Yes, please do.
Is this person going to have authority to speak for the Election Commission?
Would the machine operator be adequate?
I think the Election Commission's got to say it to us.
You have Jeff Roberts.
Jeff or Jim Delanis, who's the chair.
So does that mean the vote can't be taken?
We're going to get somebody on the phone if we can.
But if we can't, does that mean that a vote can't be
We'll
taken?
be voting tonight, whether
Still
it's deferred or...
I've got Jim Delanis. Do you want me to call him?
I'd rather have an administrative guy than a political guy.
Yeah.
I had his phone number here.
I mean, I'm okay with voting
476.
for it at the committee.
Okay,
But
let's go figure it out.
for the council vote, I think we got to be able to tell the council that the Election Commission
I agree.
has said that this is
Preferably something in writing, like an email to you or the
Yeah, get email to
Mike
me.
or the whole council or something.
yeah, we don't want to save $750,000, then they tell us we got to go buy a whole bunch of machines and it
For like
costs
$2 million.
Yeah.
But if we're buying new machines in 2020, we just need to make sure they know what they need to
But it's an
get.
investment. You pay $2 million now and you save
How many special elections?
Yeah.
By the time you have your third special election for vice mayor, you've made your
I
money
mean,
back.
you have 4 District 1 council members and you save it just like one term, like they've been having.
so we got to move your
Okay, so,
amendment.
yeah.
to-
Can we move the amendment to the amendment,
Move
please?
the amendment to the amendment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And I'll move it as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
We really need to figure that out.
All right,
Just
this
send
I
meeting,
won't go forward tomorrow without.
this meeting is adjourned.
Wait, no,
No.
don't do that. You got your
What?
amendments still.
It's not on here.
D, E, and F.
It's not on-
Can I address the committee?
Huh? What?
Is it okay for me to talk to you guys?
Sure.
We love it when you talk
Here's
about it.
mine. Mine's not in here. That's what I was thinking. Okay. He's not in here. Okay. So,
Did you want to talk about this?
No, I moved D.
About voting in
That's changing the oath of office.
Second.
But you missed it.
any
And this is the part where it just adds that
discussion?
we're to the charter as well.
Right, yeah, yeah. All right, all in favor? Opposed? All right. Motion passes.
E is,
I don't have that either on here for some reason.
there.
So, okay, so then we've got council to have 3-term limits. And of course, this has been on the ballot before, but it was attached with other things, like cutting the council almost in half. So this is just straight up 3 terms. So, Anybody want
What
to
did
say
the
anything?
Charter Commission say about this one?
They were in a.
They were upset that it wasn't eliminating term limits entirely, but they liked the change to 3.
They've consistently had
Here's
that
the
opinion.
Yeah.
Their suggestion was to remove subsection C
C and D.
as the
Right.
letter that the clerk sends annually to essentially Congress saying, please impose term limits.
So, yeah, we do send a letter every,
I see.
yeah.
We do.
That's already in the charter.
Hired by the charter, that was
Yeah.
part of the Ross Perot movement when they.
But the reason why I don't want to put that in the bill is because I think it's almost a contradiction in our city's mind. When they read that bill, they're going to be like, oh, you want 3 terms, but you don't want to try to get them to have terms? Or, yeah, I don't know, you don't want them to have terms? Because when you don't send a letter, it's maybe saying that it's, okay for them. I just think it muddies it up. I just want it to be straight, simple, and only 3 terms. Nothing else attached that would make them not vote for it. Like if you're trying to say you don't want the state to be told what to do or asked to do, then, I just think just straight up 3 terms. Be nice just to have the city to see what they like.
I question anybody that wants to do this for 3 terms,
I would agree.
but I'm going to give folks the right to vote on it,
Right. And I'm not saying that I would run again. I'm just saying that there's a lot of people that I would like to see run again. And I know the institutional knowledge is gone, so.
I think the argument is that it creates more balance between the executive and legislative branch tab.
That it does.
And the argument against term limits nationally is that by getting experienced people out of office, you give more power to lobbyists and other powers behind the scenes.
I do want to, so this would, if passed, would apply to current second-term people? Or no?
Yes, it goes in effect.
Seen the language, so.
No person elected and qualified to the office of mayor or vice mayor should be eligible for succeeding term in the same office if such person has served more than 1/2 of a 4-year term in a consecutive complete 4-year term in that particular office. So that would kick in beginning September 1st of 2019. Same language for district council members, except that they're brought up to 3 terms. So this term would not count, in other words, towards that application.
What? So would apply to, it would, so folks who are in their second term on council would be able to run a 3rd time.
You're going to run again, right?
No,
Jacoby?
no, not. I'm going to help some other people run and get elected. So I see myself serving.
All right. Motion?
Approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any other ones that I'm missing?
Yes. Amendment F changes all terms. It changes all the he's to he or she, the hims to him or her, the his to his or hers, policeman to police officer, councilman to council member.
Fireman.
Fire. I don't know if there are any firemen, but it would change it to firefighter. Is that everything, Mike?
Yeah, that firefighter's not on here, but yeah.
Okay.
But you're right. And they approved, the commission approved it as shortened.
Yes, the amended. So I'd like to move the amendment to Amendment F.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
And then
I move the amendment as amended.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Everything was passed. Now we are adjourned.
Did Fabian, you want to?
Want to say?
Yes, thank you. This is a legal question about voting in Nashville. So I have found again and again that our election commission is not providing accommodations for people that don't speak English as a first language, like Puerto Ricans, for example, or people that are elderly and became citizens late. And so when I go to them asking them to provide some information in other languages, they refuse to do it because they say state law preempts that, and they can only provide the information that is available by state. So I said, can I at least post some information describing, because there's this form that you can use to ask for assistance when you don't speak English well. The form is in English. So if you don't speak English, how are you going to complete the form? So I said, can we at least put instructions on how to complete the form? No, you cannot. It's against state rules. So I said, can I at least put it on the door outside? He said, no, it has to be outside the restricted area. So the question I wanted to ask the local lawyers is if there is anything we can do to help our citizens that are not English proficient. Mostly when some of these rules, if they pass, it's going to be a really hard thing to understand for some people, unless, even if you're English proficient. So I wanted to make sure that we could post information and explain these things in other languages. So I don't know how we can...
How about the ballot when they mail it out?
Sorry?
When we mail the ballot out, when the election commission mails that sample ballot,
Election Commission.
can they mail out?
I mean, that would be, I don't mind how we do it. It's just, I had a terrible situation that happened to me. A constituent in my district, his son was a military guy. He was serving this country, right? So this guy had finally become a citizen. He was an elderly Latino. And I saw him when I went to vote. And he says, hey, this is my first time, would you mind sticking around? So I said, yes. So I went with him. I walk all the way, I wait in line. When we get to the polls, he said, you cannot come in with him. I'm like, why? I mean, he's asking me, no, he has to complete this form. So I look at the form and it's in English. I said, can I help him? No, he needs to do it. So it was all really weird that here we are, the son of a person that is serving our country cannot be helped because of some state rule.
And that happened at my precinct too, which I was turned in to Joan about it. Because there was a gentleman there, it was the same thing. He came with, it was a Latino gentleman came with a white lady, and the lady was helping him. And then after he got to the little booth part, she told him which ballot he was going to pick or whatever. When he got into the booth, got ready to do, he had a question, and they told, no, you can't say anything to him. I said, but if he needs assistance, she said, nobody can help him at this point, and that if you have an issue, you need to call the election commission. So they reported me. Because I said, well, if someone has a need, at what point do they ask? Because they don't offer it to you. And so the message is they need to know all that before they get here. So.
And the reason thank you, Council Lady, and the reason I bring it up is if this passes and it creates a new thing that people need to relearn how to vote, I wanted to make sure that it was explained in other languages as well. So people, when they go vote, they understand this instant runoff thing, and they know what they are asked to do or offered to do.
Or at least at minimum, in that sample ballot sent out, have the form that you're talking about, but put it in a couple of languages.
I don't understand. Since you're allowed to collect petition signatures and hand out sample ballots and all that kind of stuff inside 100 feet, why you wouldn't be able to offer that kind of information to people?
I couldn't do it. I
understand why you can't walk up to the machine with
They
somebody.
talk about cost, and I said, I'll find somebody to pay for it. And they said, no, we cannot do it. So I wanted to see if we as a council, legally, how can we push this to accommodate everybody that lives in Davidson County that is a citizen and wants to be part of our democracy.
What about a resolution to the election commission asking them to fix this? It sounds like they're not wanting to.
State thing, though.
But we don't know.
State law.
She told me it's state.
I mean, Durban law is state law.
Yeah.
So I don't know specifically what the state provision says. The election commission is charged with interpreting in the state law, and state election coordinator is charged with interpreting state election law. So, I mean, kind of whatever they say goes, but as far as mailing out the sample ballot, I don't know why you couldn't send something else out with that.
The other thing is the assistance is not because the assistance is not available to them if they cannot speak the language. It's available like if they don't understand, like if they have a hearing or some kind of other issue. So if there is no provision for people who are not proficient in the language. And what she suggested for you and I to do is go there and create what we want to, give it to them in their own community, let them bring it to the polls with them. That's her resolution.
That T-REC has got to start an organization, a separate wing of theirs about voting.
Yeah, but I don't really know every person that.
Oh, I know.
I don't know how good they speak English or not. I think I speak pretty good English, and I'm an immigrant, and so I don't need that form. So just because you are an immigrant or a Latina doesn't mean that you need it.
I think you should do a resolution, and I'll sign it too, to the state or the election commission, asking them to insert into the sample ballot a piece of paper that says, if you need assistance, call this number, and have them call.
Minimum. That's like the bare minimum they should be doing.
Yeah, and just, it could have all the different languages on there, and it could be inside all the ones that we have at least, 2%
That's a
here.
barrier to be able, that's a disenfranchisement if you can't understand.
Well, thank you for
Well,
your
her response was that they should know how to speak the language to vote. That's what she told me, that we're doing too much to accommodate people to vote, that, we.
Who said that?
The lady at the precinct who I headed out with the church, because I was like, no.
We're doing too much to accommodate people to vote?
Somebody working at the precinct?
Yes, she said, people need to take upon themselves to be responsible about voting. Like, they want us to handhold them through all this process. And I said, no, people are still intimidated with voting, and I think we should accommodate them. But what I learned is that form does not accommodate people who are not proficient in the language. It's 3 criteria on there. I took a picture of it. That's why they turned me in.
Do they offer it to people who are blind
Yes.
and braille?
And they have to ask, beforehand. It's a certain way of, like when you come in, you have to ask for this ahead of time and all that. It's a procedure to do it. And nobody can really help you. It needs to be changed.
All communications and publications, including ballots produced by governmental entities in Tennessee, shall be in English.
And for the TV viewing audience, you're reading state law.
Yes, this is not my personal view. This is TCA 41404.
Why don't we have Mr. Jameson hear out Councilman Bednay's issues? I know he just did, and if there's anything, I don't think we got control over any of it, so a resolution to the Election Commission seems like a great idea.
Thank you. That's kind of what I was asking. I didn't know how much we could push. I think any little
And
bit.
that law was probably written before we had so much,
Or after.
I bet it was written after.
right,
Yeah, probably.
They knew what they were doing.
You think so?
Correct.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
Yes.
say 4.
We adjourned.
Okay, well, this meeting is adjourned.